There's a place tucked deep in the new River Gorge. So quiet now, it'll make the hairs on your arms stand up. They call it Thurmond, and once upon a time it roared louder than a freight train at midnight. Now it just whispers. But if you stand still enough, if you wait long after the last light fades, you might just hear it speak, and what it says ain't meant for the living. Welcome back to Kentucky Melody, where the past don't stay buried and every holler's got a tale. Tonight, we're heading to the ghost town of Thurmond, West Virginia, a place where history left behind more than just buildings. Long, long for the coal dust blackened lungs and iron rails carved their path through the mountains, this land belonged to the earth and sky, and to the ones who listened close enough to hear it breathe. The Cherokee, the Shawnee, and the Lenape, what most call the Delaware, roamed these ridgelines, not as conquerors, but as kin. They hunted the thick hollers where the trees grow gnarled and whisper when there ain't no wind. They fished the roaring white water of what we now call the New River, long believing it was a sacred vein that connected the worlds of the living and the dead. Around their fires they spoke of spirit keepers in the rocks, of old gods hiding beneath the river's surface, shimmering just beneath the foam when the moon sat low. They said the gorge weren't carved by flood or time, but by a great spirit, a giant of wind and stone, whose tears of grief cut through the mountain to make room for something far older than man. There's a place high up where the cliff juts sharp over the bend, a jagged rock wall shaped like a scowling face. Locals call it the Frownin Man. They say it's the mark of a watcher, a chief who saw death coming and turned to stone to guard the valley in silence. Even today, some hikers swear they've seen eyes in that stone, shifting ever so slightly, following their steps like a hawk watching prey. Others believe it's more than a memory. It's a sentinel, holding court over the dead still trapped in these hills. But all that peace, all that reverence, it didn't last. Then came the white man. With him came iron, fire, and greed. The trees were felled, the river bridled, and the hills ripped open for the black blood buried beneath. And whatever spirits once lived quiet and hidden in the rocks and waters, well, some say they were angered. Some say they still are. Back in 1873, a man by the name of Captain William D. Thurmond, a former Confederate officer with calloused hands and darker intentions, laid claim to a patch of high ground overlooking the New River. He built himself a house up there, sturdy and proud, thought maybe he'd live out the rest of his days in peace. But peace don't last long in a place like this. By 1888, the Chesapeake and Ohio Railway came roaring through the gorge, spitting steam and promise. And with that whistle blowing down the holler, all hell come crashing in behind it. Thurmond went from a sleepy bend in the river to a full-blown boomtown near overnight. Coal dust filled the air, and so did the stink of whiskey, sweat, and sin. By the turn of the century, them narrow streets were jammed tight with coal miners, railmen, card sharks, ladies of the night, and folks with more secrets than names. They called it the Dodge City of the East. Sitting right on the riverbank stood the infamous Dun Glen Hotel, a 4-story beast of a building, dressed in red brick and bad decisions. They say it was the grandest den of vice this side of the Mississippi. You could find everything from a stiff drink to a crooked deal behind them doors. And it was right there, in a back room soaked in cigar smoke and lost wages, where the longest poker game in American history played out, 14 years straight. Men came in with fortunes and left with empty pockets and hollow eyes. One fella even bet his whole coal mine in a single hand, and lost it all on a busted straight. Out in the streets, it weren't no better. Shootouts broke out over debts, women, or just looking the wrong way too long. The cobblestones got stained so often, blood became part of the mortar. Now, Thurmond did have a lawman, Harrison Ash, a 6'4" mountain of a man with 7 notches carved into the handle of his revolver. But even Ash couldn't hold back the rot. The town was wild, mean, and running hot with danger. They say bodies turned up in the New River with regularity, some too bloated to recognize, others with their boots still on and stories unfinished. One tale, whispered quiet but often, tells of a man found dead beneath the railroad bridge. Still had $80 and a pistol in his coat. Now, here's where the tale gets twisted. The town judge, wearing his robes like a noose, had that corpse dragged into court, fined the dead man for carrying a concealed weapon, then took his cash and watch to cover the penalty. Only after that was the poor soul tossed in a pauper's grave by the river like yesterday's trash. That's the kind of justice Thurmond served. By 1914, Prohibition hit West Virginia, but the whiskey didn't stop. It just got quieter, more dangerous. Moonshine ran in jugs from the hills above, and deals were made behind closed shutters. But trouble don't knock. It kicks down the door. In 1922, a fire swept through Thurmond's south side, taking a good chunk of the town with it. Smoke rolled like thunder through the gorge, and flames licked up memories like kindling. But it was the fire of 1930 that broke Thurmond's back. Midnight, July 23rd. The Dunglen Hotel, the Waldorf of the mountains they called it, caught fire and lit the sky like Judgment Day. The blaze was so fierce, firefighters from nearby towns could only stand and watch. That 4-story monument to sin and song burned to the foundation. Some say it was arson. Some whisper it was revenge, maybe even divine retribution. Others, they believe the ghosts themselves struck the match, tired of being tethered to a place steeped in sorrow and filth. After that, the spirit of Thurmond just snapped. The Great Depression rolled in like a funeral dirge. The National Bank folded. The coal offices closed, one after another, and the trains stopped stopping, switching from steam to diesel, passing by without a glance back. By the 1950s, Thurmond was a shadow with a name, a town only the dead remembered. By the 1990s, even the post office shut down, and that was the final nail. What's left now? Cracked sidewalks, peeling paint, empty windows that sometimes don't seem so empty, and stories that refuse to die. They say a place can hold pain, that sorrow and violence can soak into wood and stone, the way blood stains a bedsheet or tears seep into the dirt. If that's true, then Thurmond's soaked clean through, right down to its bones. And at the very center of it all stands the depot. Used to be the lifeline of the town, the heart pumping coal, mail, and people in and out of them hills. Now, it's a tomb with tracks. Still stands proud, 2 stories tall, looking over the rails like it's waiting on a train that'll never come. But at night, it don't wait alone. Paranormal teams, tour guides, even park rangers, they'll all tell you, something's wrong with the second-floor balcony. That's where a man, long ago, either fell or got pushed. No one knows which for sure. But folks swear they feel a presence leaning there, watching. Some say they hear boots scuffing on wood, right before a thud echoes below, like someone reliving their last breath over and over. Flashlights, they flicker to life on their own, like something's answering questions folks ain't even said out loud. Ask it if it remembers the fall, and the light'll blink once. Ask if it was murder, and you might get two. Then there's the story from one of the rangers, a man with 50 years in them woods, and not a bit of foolishness in his bones. Said he locked up tight one night, checked every latch, every faucet, come back the next morning, and every door was wide open, every water spigot flowing full blast. Not a soul had the key but him. He said it felt like the depot itself was acting out a memory, like the place was caught in a loop, trying to relive the rush of them old steam-powered days when the platform bustled and the air was thick with smoke and hollerin'. Only now, they don't need a ticket, just an open door, and maybe a reason to stay. The post office sits squat and silent now, a brick shell with a hollow heart. Once upon a time it was the rhythm of Thurmond's breath, where love letters, mining checks, and trouble passed through the same dusty hands. Now, only ghosts check the mail. They say if you sit quiet in there, real quiet, you'll hear the whisper of a name float through the spirit box. Jane. Then another word. Postmaster. That'd be Jane Lawson, long since passed, but still minding her duties like nothing ever changed. Investigators leave a flashlight sitting on the counter, ask a question, and it'll blink. Once for yes, twice for you best not ask again. It's happened more than once. And always in that same soft rhythm, like someone polite but persistent is trying to speak through the static. Folks have felt a child's laugh drift through the room like a summer breeze. One night, they rolled a little rubber ball across the floor, and something, or someone, rolled it back. Ain't no kids in Thurmond no more. Then there's the Mankin Cox building. She looms tall, 4 stories of red brick and memories that don't rest. Doctor's office, pharmacy, bank. Now, she's just a shadow tower full of chill and whispers. Paranormal teams keep hearing the same name in that place. Barbara. Don't nobody know who she was for sure. Maybe she was the doc's nurse, maybe his wife, or maybe just a spirit too stubborn or too sad to go on. One group brought 2 nurses on a tour, real, living nurses. They got near the old drugstore door and suddenly both near collapsed. Said their chests went tight, their heads spun, and sadness hit 'em like a freight train full of grief. The EMF meter spiked like a lightning rod in a thunderstorm. Folks believe Barbara's still trying to care for the broken, even if the bodies she tends to ain't breathing no more. Sometimes they hear soft footsteps above, pittering across the pharmacy floor. Others have seen light orbs in the windows, floating, drifting, then vanishing like a thought you ain't ready to remember. That building don't just echo, it remembers. And if you listen real close, it might remember you too. Up on that ridge, crouched like it's watching every soul who dares step foot in Thurmond, sits a weathered old place folks call the Red House. Used to be the trainmaster's place back when Thurmond still had a heartbeat. But these days, it feels more like a watchtower for the dead. A psychic medium once stepped onto that porch with a crowd behind her, took one foot on them old wooden boards, and just froze. Her eyes went wide. She clutched at her throat like something had her by the neck. No air, no words, just the pure, awful look of someone being strangled by something they couldn't see. She backed off that porch like it was a cliff, told the group, voice shaking. "I ain't going in there. I can't. Something in there don't want me." Later that night, a guest who did go in weren't so lucky. Made it upstairs just fine, until suddenly he dropped to his knees, both hands clawing at his throat. His face went pale and he gasped like the air'd turned solid. Said afterward, "It felt like big hands, real strong, was squeezing my neck. And right by my ear, I heard something burst, like a growl or a breath or I don't know. Then I couldn't breathe." He don't talk much about Thurmond no more. Now, if you stand at the bottom of the hill on a cloudy night, you might just see her. They call her the Lady in Red. Folks swear they've seen her glowering from the upstairs window, her face twisted in a scowl like she's real tired of being looked at. She don't blink. She don't move. She just waits. One investigator, big fella, skeptical as a mule, said he saw her in that window. Thought nothing of it at first. That night, he dreamt she followed him home, stood at the foot of his bed in that same red dress, whispering in a voice that sounded like wind through dead leaves. "You shouldn't have come. You best not come again." He woke up cold and sweating. Ain't been back to Thurmond since. That house don't just feel haunted. It feels like something's guarding it. Territorial, angry, like it remembers what it once was and hates what it's become. You can walk Main Street just fine. Visit the depot, the post office, even the old drugstore. But the moment you step toward the red house, the air gets thick. The birds go quiet. And it feels like something old and bitter's watching you, waiting to see if you'll dare knock. The ones who do don't always come back the same. Way down past the depot, past where the town thins out into gravel and memory, there's a crooked little dirt path that leads to the lower-end houses. Ain't many folks got the nerve to walk it. And the ones who do, well, they don't come back talking right. It's quiet down there, too quiet. Even the wind don't bother stirring. And the birds, they give that part of town a wide berth. One paranormal crew braved it, armed with spirit boxes, cameras, and overconfidence. Said they set up just inside one of the collapsed houses, asking for names. Didn't take long before the box crackled to life and a girl's voice came through, clear as creek water. "My name's Emily. I was pushed." Right then, the temperature dropped like a stone in a well. Cameras fogged over from the inside. You could see their breath, even though it was summer. One woman dropped to her knees like the air itself got heavy. Said afterward it felt like something just reached in and tugged her soul halfway out her body. Left her limp, cold, and shaken. Then came the black mist. Started as a curl of shadow near the floor. Spiraled slow at first, then wrapped round a man's legs like a snake made of grief. He couldn't move, couldn't breathe. He said it felt like being wrapped in rage and mourning all at once. Like whatever was down there wasn't just dead, it was hurt, betrayed, abandoned, furious, and just like that, it was gone, vanishing into the floorboards like it had never been, leaving behind only the stink of mildew and fear. That end of town, it don't want visitors. It don't care if you believe. It don't even care if you scream. It just wants you gone. But maybe the strangest thing of all in Thurmond ain't the buildings, ain't the shadows. It's the tracks. Even now, they cut clean through town like a scar. Twisted steel, rusted brown, running through the middle of everything. At night, some say you can hear it. A low, lonesome whistle crying out across the gorge. followed by the sound of a train that ain't there. No lights, no smoke, just the sound of wheels on steel and the faint echo of voices yelling. All aboard, but there ain't been no train scheduled there in decades. Others say they've seen figures in old-timey rail clothes just walking along the tracks, heads bowed, shoulders slumped, like they're heading home from a shift that never ends. But here's the thing. They don't leave no footprints. They don't cast no shadow, and they don't look up. They just walk. Some say they're residual hauntings, memories that got stuck in the iron, but others believe they're trapped, souls still trying to make it to a depot that ain't coming back. Thurmond's tracks don't just lead through the gorge, they lead through time, and sometimes the past decides to walk back through. Now, you might say it's all hogwash, old-timers letting their imagination run wild. But if you ever walk Thurmond streets at night, you'll feel it. The wind don't blow the same. The dark ain't just dark, it's waiting. You'll smell coal smoke that ain't there, hear a piano that ain't playing, and maybe, just maybe, see a figure tip his hat from the depot steps. Could be Captain Thurmond himself, or a railman still waiting on a train that ain't coming. Or maybe it's a lady in red, still seething with anger, still protecting what's hers. Thurmond ain't empty. It's just quiet, like a beast holding its breath. So now I gotta ask you, would you dare visit Thurmond after dark? Would you walk them ghost-soaked tracks, peek through the depot windows, or knock on the porch of the red house just to see who knocks back? Which part chilled your bones the most? Was it them poker games that bled fortunes and pride? That ghost train crying through the gorge at midnight? Or maybe it was the strangling hands reaching from the dark to remind folks they ain't alone? Do you think a place can truly hold on to pain like that, so tight it don't ever let go? Or is it just the wind, playing tricks through broken glass and memory? Let us know down in the comments, and don't forget to hit that like button if this story left your skin itching. And if you ever go wandering them hills, mind your step. Thurmond don't like to be disturbed. If this tale curled the hair on your neck, there's plenty more where that come from. At Kentucky Melody, we don't just tell ghost stories. We listen to the land when it whispers. We follow the echoes, even when they lead us where we shouldn't go. If you're still watching, then you're one of us. So go on, click that subscribe button, but be warned. Some stories ain't meant to be heard, and once you hit that bell, you'll hear 'em anyway. The dead don't rest, and neither do we.